What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ecker Geopolitics. We're going to be talking about the Trump-Ireland speech. We're going to be talking about whether or not Netanyahu is dead. We had more videos coming out today. And on top of that, we also had all of the news happening with the oil prices, all of the news happening with the Clarity Act. Good news for that, and lots of good news, really. However, not a lot of good news as we are really pushing up this war. We're ramping it up. So what do you think? Going to be a good show. Enjoy. So I wanted to talk about this story a little bit. Live updates. Trump insists U.S. can break Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz without allies' help. What do you guys think? You think that's possible? You think we'll be able to do it? And I think we will. Ultimately, the United States is the most powerful country on earth, right? So this is a big story, though. Major developments were following U.S. President Donald Trump fumed in a post on Tuesday. We do not need the help of anyone to break Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day. That's why I'm wearing green today. Got to honor the Irish heritage. Got to honor it. Got to honor the name of which I was named after, right? St. Brendan the Navigator. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to navigate the news today. We're going to navigate the newest stories. The director of National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has announced his resignation, saying he cannot in good conscience back the Trump administration's war in Iran. Kent said on social media that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started the war due to the pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. A Special Forces combat veteran with ties to right-wing extremists, Kent was considered as much of a loyalist as Trump could have in the government's top counterterrorism post. So, of course, they had to wrap that entire sentence up with right-wing extremists. Yeah, who? Honestly. So Joe Kent, that's the big news with Joe Kent. He resigned, and so that's pretty huge. And so, guys, what do you think about that? I think that's pretty crazy. Here's the other story I wanted to cover. Sorry if that kind of froze there. We're still going. ABC News captured the moment a meteor in Ohio, Pennsylvania fell. Let's check this out. Pretty crazy.
Across the sky, and
Look
then
at this. Wild.
a fireball shooting across the sky, and then
It was just like a boom, like that. Like, bah!
within minutes, satellite data indicating that extraterrestrial object was an asteroid entering the atmosphere.
It's probably a
The
missile.
National Weather Service in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, capturing this video. Bill
Joking,
Cook is
obviously.
NASA's Meteor expert.
6 feet across, had a weight of about 8 tons. So
Wow.
in that vicinity, and it was moving at 40,000 miles per hour.
Across northeastern Ohio, homes shook as a space rock blew apart, creating that boom that was heard.
And
Crazy.
When it broke apart, it unleashed an
So we got
energy of
meteors
about
falling in the sky in
250 tons of
2026.
TNT. So this thing just broke apart violently, scattered fragments everywhere.
And so now the search is on for chunks of the asteroid because Doppler weather radar shows pieces of what blew apart came raining down on Medina County, Ohio.
So there are pieces of this that are actually somewhere on the ground in Medina.
You guys think it's aliens, or you think it's just regular activity? Obviously, it's regular
In
activity,
Medina
right?
County, there are space rocks lying on the ground, and people can potentially find them.
Experts
Interesting.
say space rocks enter the atmosphere fairly frequently. About once a month, a fireball like today's streaks across the sky over the U.S. Most of the asteroids and meteoroids that enter burn up before they hit the ground. Alex Stone, ABC.
And that's the story on that. That was in Ohio. That was in Ohio, Pennsylvania. May have been from Meteor. A boom heard in Ohio and neighboring states on Tuesday morning appears to have been from a meteor, the National Weather Services in Cleveland said. NWS said imagery does suggest that the boom was a result of a meteor. So there's the meteor. So we got meteors falling from the sky on March 17th, 2026. And meanwhile, we have all of this other news happening. There's some more footage of it. More footage of that. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. And then again, I also wanted to cover, of course, we wanted to cover the Trump-Iran speech. I wanted to cover the Ireland speech where Trump was hosting from there, talking about a lot of the developments happening in the war, right? So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at some of these videos. And let's analyze the algorithm. Let's see what's going on in the X algorithm. We'll look at some of those other stories later, but first I wanted to focus on the Trump, some of the Trump highlights there from his speech today. So we're going to go kind of out of order here, a little bit scattered, but we're going to just look at these slips because, oh man, this is crazy. We're in a war with Iran that we don't want to be in. We're into something that we really can't get ourselves out of unless we have a president who's willing to get out of it. And I think it's pretty clear that Trump has been serving pretty much the entire state of Israel versus America first. So let's listen to this video. What do you guys think about this?
I mean, it's an economy that has survived. That revolution, it's not even a revolution, that thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge are,
that's
they don't know
not
how to
true.
Fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
They're doing anything they can to really push forward this war. They want that more than anything. They want this war because this war essentially ensures that America is going to be a slave to Israel. And all of the trade will continue going through Israel. So let's look at this clip. LMAO, Trump gets angry at an Irish reporter when he couldn't understand her question. Say it, you're speaking right into the phone. The guy proves every second he doesn't have the temperament to be president. So again, obviously that's an opinionated statement there. Let's listen to this.
Say it.
What do you think about our president's comments?
Can you speak? You're speaking right into your phone.
And then he just wags her off. Wags her off, shakes her off, said, no, I don't care. Journalist, Trump warned allies to support against Iran or else NATO's future is uncertain. The German minister responded with, we didn't start this war. Trump didn't consult with us. We can't be there to support. Spain, Italy, the UK, and everyone has shown spy and respect. Okay, well, that's one way to put it. I think a lot of these other countries who aren't getting involved in this war obviously don't want to be involved in a 20-year war. They don't want to be involved in a war fighting for Israel, right? They don't want to be fighting and dying for the state of Israel. So let's listen to this clip.
Donald Trump has warned allies, essentially, if they don't stand by the US's side, then NATO's future could be very bad. How do you understand that? How close are we to NATO falling apart?
I think we are not very close to that, not at all. I mean, we have a situation which we did not provoke, which we don't cause at all. This war started without any consultations before. We have a big responsibility, a very important responsibility for the eastern flank and the high north, as I mentioned earlier, and we stay committed to that, but we can't be anywhere on the world, and we can't be at every place to support a war which we didn't start.
Right.
So it is about to find ways to solve the situation diplomatically.
Sure.
This is what we are stay committed and being helpful at any time.
Why wouldn't they? Yeah, I mean, that's common sense. Why would these other countries want to be involved when we totally started this war with Israel? I mean, I think Israel more than America did. But we did this. We created this for ourselves, and now Trump is calling all of our other allies, or so-called allies, right? But now we're expecting all these other countries to come and fight at our aid. And the most annoying part is that a lot of these world leaders are total communists and leftists, and they're already a lot of them are bought off by the Zionists. So I'm speaking specifically of Keir Starmer. And so you look at this stuff and it's like, man, we're literally being, completely railroaded by our own allies, but for good reason, because why would they want to fight in a 20-year war?
I originate, to put it nicely, many of us do, from Europe. I love Europe. I've spent a lot of time in Europe.
Where are you guys from? Where's your DNA from? Where are you guys from? Are you from Ireland or are you from Scotland? I actually did it today. I went on Ancestry, and we had it was like 29% Scottish. I believe it was 28% Scandinavian if you include the Swedish and the Finnish. And then we had, I think, 13% Irish. So I had like 13% Irish. But mostly Scottish. I'm mostly Scottish. I'm mostly Swedish and then Finnish. So those are like my three big DNAs on the list there. And then, of course, English. I have a little bit of English, a little bit of Dutch. So where do you guys come from? Do you guys come from Europe? Do you guys come from, where do you guys come from?
It's a different place. Bad things have happened to Europe. Very bad things. And you better do something about immigration, and you better do something about energy, or you won't have a Europe.
True. Yeah, absolutely. He's right about that. Mass illegal immigration is not good for anybody. It's not. Mass immigration It's not against all of these different races coming into our country, obviously. Everybody has a place here if you love this country, if you love America, if you love our way of life. You want to respect our laws, basically. You want to respect our laws, our constitution, our system of governance. You want to understand that this is a white European country, first and foremost, a Christian country. And that's a lot of the things that people don't want to accept that. People don't want to believe that that is, but that's the way this country was always started. And that's the way it was from the beginning. So there's just no way around that. Trump on aid to Ukraine, Biden gave them between $350 billion and $400 billion of equipment in cash. Someday we'll have to find out about that cash.
It's interesting because when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. It's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment in cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat. We're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
Well, here's the thing. Again, like all of these countries are going to take a little bit more time before they decide on helping America when we are the ones starting all of these wars, right? We started the Ukraine war with Israel. That was for them. That was for the Greater Israel Project. So that's why we're doing all of this. So the French general, how do you spell that? Why are these names are just always so easy to butcher? Yakovlev. How do you spell this? Yakovlev. We'll just call it that. The U.S. asked for our help and wants us to share the costs of their fiascos. Joining Trump's coalition today is like buying a ticket to dinner and dancing on the Titanic the evening after it hits the iceberg.
No.
So here's what everybody else is saying. I mean, as we're looking through these Trump videos, as we're analyzing Trump's speech, the Ireland speech today, where he spoke with the, that government, this is what the allies are saying.
La première, c'est que il a pas compris s'il
He
veut
basically
faire une
says what's in the
opération
caption there. So our allies aren't willing to fight for us right now, and that's not good. That's not good. This is what French President Macron had to say about it. He basically openly revolted against the U.S. and Israel. France did not choose this Iran war. We are not taking part in it. Nobody can force us. I repeat here, France did not choose this war. We are not taking part, and we have purely defensive position in protecting our citizens in support of our allies. Our objectives are clear. They have been to defend since one day has not changed. First one, to protect our citizens, our diplomatic and military bases, and our interests in the region. The second objective is to stand alongside all our partners, those with whom are linked by defense agreements, along with whom we can and will go often with to fight against terrorism, for security, and for regional stability. And so we have honored our word, and we will continue to honor it. We are loyal partners, and we have provided them with very clear guidelines, support, and from the beginning, which is to help them. And yeah. So that's the statements from President Macron, the French president. What do you guys think about that? So far, Germany, Italy, and Japan have said they will not send ships to the Middle East to help keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Lawrence B. Jones, well, they fear the trap because, as the president said during the press conference yesterday, it's almost a test. He goes, we really need them. No, but he goes, I kind of want to see what they're going to say to us. Are they going to be there? And they're kind of proving this theory. So Trump's really acting like this is just some normal war where while he's acting like we are the ones who are being attacked, right? And here, obviously, we know that the United States and Israel perpetrated this entire attack unprovoked on Iran, and it got us into this war. And now he has to sleep in his own bed kind of thing.
Germany, Italy, and Japan have said they will not send ships to the region. Guys, back to you.
Very interesting. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, just to follow up on that, it's pretty amazing that Germany goes, no, I'm not going to do anything. UK says, no, I'm not going to help. France says, I got some in the area. We'll see what I can do. Japan says no. And I think this, we're going to be fine. It's a couple more weeks that maybe there's more
It's really
shooting
not
going
that
on. But
surprising.
in the big picture, this backs up what the president's been saying about our allies in times of crisis. Are they going to be there?
Well, especially
in times
when
of
the
crisis?
president yesterday said we only get 1% of our oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Japan, who's saying they're not going to help and not going to send ships, gets 95%. China, 90%. South Korea, 35%.
Well, they fell for the trap because, as the president said during that press conference yesterday, it's almost a test. He goes,
See, I really don't even like reacting to Fox News content anymore because it's just so biased. It's just it's brutal.
we really need them. No, he goes, but
I mean, obviously, I don't like CNN either. The point is, you need to focus on all of the media. This is my point. I focus on Twitterettes because we can analyze all of the different forms of media. We're analyzing a little bit of Fox News. We analyze a little bit of CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and we might read articles from the Associated Press or Investopedia. You know, it depends on the day. It depends on the conversation. But the point of Twitter X and the reason I do this show like the way I do is so we can analyze all these different angles of media. And so we can really come to some kind of consensus.
I kind of want to see what they're going to say to us. Are they going to be there? And they're kind of proving his theory, what he said all along.
Yeah, Germany.
So they're going to back Trump no matter what. You know, the Fox News is always going to back Trump. And Shapiro made some statements. We'll go back to some of these clips. The Save America Act has advanced in its first test vote on the Senate floor, 51-48. President Trump has declared it this priority number one for true election integrity. Huge momentum. Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Arkansas, is the lone nay from the Republican Party. So that's some big news. Here's Keir Starmer, basically, again, joining in with the rest of the NATO and the UN, basically saying, no, we're not going to help the United States.
Israel were carrying out on
So let's see what he
Iran.
has to say. Also, take note, Keir Starmer is Jewish. A lot of people don't like to, come to that. Not that they don't like to, but a lot of people just don't ever find the truth. But Keir Starmer is very Jewish, and so a lot of people don't know that. He's more of a Jew than he is a Brit. So he has more loyalty and fealty towards the state of Israel, and that's something to take important note of if we are going to analyze all of these world leaders, which ones are Zionists, which ones are populists. You have to consider all of these things. Who's playing for who? I think Keir Starmer is playing for the state of Israel.
Of this conflict, I made it really clear that we wouldn't join the offensive strikes that the US and Israel were carrying out on Iran. We've got about 300,000 British nationals in the Gulf region, and it's important that we protect them and our Gulf allies. So we have got...
So it's like, how do you think you're protecting anybody, Keir Starmer, when your country is completely dominated by Muslims right now and Arabs? Like, there is no more white people in England. Okay, Ireland this year is it was pretty sad, right? I mean, full of illegal immigrants, full of undocumented people, full of people from Somalia, Nigeria, or whether it be from Palestine, of course, because they're refugees. So a lot of them were taken to places like Ireland. That was one of the countries the Palestinians were actually sent to. So, and Trump was all in favor of that, which is interesting. If you have a memory and you look back, Trump was all in favor of sending the Palestinian refugees after the Gaza genocide by Israel. All of those Palestinian refugees were sent to Ireland and all of those countries, Germany. It's like, it's very interesting, right? Like, who is Trump really working for? Who is Trump really giving that loyalty to?
The IRF.
Same with Keir Starmer and all of these world leaders. Is there a common syndicate when it comes to these people, and is Keir Starmer one of them? I think there's very likely possibility that could be true.
In particular, flying aeroplanes across the region, they're actually intercepting strikes to stop them hitting people and buildings. So that's defensive action. But we're not joining the war. We are allowing the US to use our bases, but again for defensive, collective self-defense to take out basically the ability of Iran to put missiles into the air that are going or may go to attack.
Okay, so they are allowing basically naval activity off of the coast of the UK. So
our Gulf allies and our people in the Gulf. So not going to war, simply taking necessary defensive action to protect British lives and British interests. Whether it's conflict in the region, whether it's the impact on oil and gas, or just the worry that most people have about how's this going to impact me in my home, the best way to reduce the impact is to...
Yeah, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. What I hear from this is these are world leaders who are pouncing on the opportunity to crush the West, to crush America, because America is the greatest empire on earth. You can argue that all day. Maybe we've lost a lot of that spark. But at the end of the day, the reason these world leaders, they're not going to help the United States, the greatest empire on earth, when we're weak. They want us to fall, right? Because if America falls, then they have the chance of becoming a new empire, and all of the, especially the British Empire, right? That's kind of, we're always going to have a historic, a little bit of a fight, butting of heads when it comes to the UK and the Brits, because the Americans, we fled to the New World to escape the taxation and to escape the tyranny from the king at the time. And so we came to the New World and we developed this land, we settled it. But the only difference was we didn't do what Israel is doing now to settle our land. We built upon this land. We built up the land. We built up the skyscrapers. We built up the buildings and the governments. And we created trade. We gave the Native Americans gunpowder and all of these things. You could say that it's a good thing, a bad thing. Well, they were able to defend themselves. And ultimately, there is a thing called evolution, and the Europeans were able to bring that to the New World. And so our way of settling America was much different than what you see today when it comes to the Muslims who are conquering the UK by sword. And you say, well, the Americans conquered, or the Europeans conquered America by sword. It's like, yeah, sure, a lot of that's true. But when we first started out, the intent was for peace. The intent was for freedom and independence, exploration also. And the difference between us and Israel is that Israel, what they're doing to Lebanon right now, what they're doing to Gaza, what they've done to the Palestinians, this is an ethnic cleansing, completely getting rid of the people. And we did not do that. We never did that. We built casinos, actually, for the Native Americans. And a lot of what happened with the United States, you have to remember, when we came over here, and your ancestors, my ancestors, when we came over here to the New World, a lot of the time, the way it went, we bought the land, okay? We bought the land. We were able to claim the land because it was unclaimed. And so you can say that, well, why can't they do that? Why can't another country come into your country and do that? Well, here's the problem with that is that, you're coming by the sword and you don't love the nation and the history. And also you don't seek exploration and adventure and all of these things. You don't, you're seeing that with a lot of these foreign nations who are coming into our countries, whether it be England, the UK, the United States. You're really seeing the same kind of stuff. So that's the big difference. When America became America, we invented pretty much everything. Like 97% of the world's inventions was created by Europeans, okay? And it's just the way it is. We built castles. We brought them to Canada. We brought them here. If it wasn't for the Europeans and our settlement here, and not by sword, but by innovation and exploration, the manifest destiny, as you could call it, that is really what it's all about. A lot of people miss that, and they forget that.
If that continues.
Breaking, Trump economic advisor Kevin Hassett just said the quiet part out loud. If the war were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy at all. It would hurt consumers, but that's really the last of our concerns right now.
Our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is.
So yeah, crude oil is doing good. Crude oil is up.
The U.S. economy is fundamentally sound. And that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about,
oh boy,
if that continued, what we would have to do about.
It's not going to hurt the U.S. economy at all. It's just going to hurt you consumers, all you people who, scroll on Instagram all day, or you go on Twitter X, or you watch YouTube videos because you worked all day at your job. No, it's just those consumers, those dirty, nasty consumers. Only they will really have to suffer from all of this. No worries, just the consumers. They really don't care, right?
That. But that's really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very.
The last of our concerns.
Our concerns right now, because we have to do about that. But that's really the last of our concerns right now. To do about that. But that's really the last of our concerns right now. Really the last of our concerns right now. Really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very.
Who else is sick of these people? And they get to call the shots, Back to the Trump Ireland speech and kind of what was said there. Some highlights from that. Trump backtracks on the Strait of Hormuz after nearly every country rejected his call for help. Well, we don't need too much help. We don't need anything. So let's look at this.
All of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their...
See, I just, come on. That's not really what's happening, though, right? That's not really what's happening.
What progress have you made, Mr. President, in getting America's allies to assist the U.S. in escorting those oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was...
Do you see his face there? you see the Irish president's face?
watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually.
Body
Very
language,
important
study it.
that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their...
Yeah, and we watched that. So, and here, a lot of that's not happening. We're going to be covering a lot of the war footage and new updates on that, too. We're just getting through the rest of these highlights, and then, again, we're going to look at some of the Netanyahu footage. We're going to be looking at some of the... Because, again, he released new footage today. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel apparently is still alive, and he's released some more videos. A lot of those videos have not been getting the greatest attention. A lot of people are saying those are AI-generated. A lot of the softwares are saying that as well. And then also, and there's one video where his ring goes missing at 27 seconds in. That's the video where he's with his family, and it shows him walking around talking. That was released 2 days ago, I think, or yesterday. And then today, a video was released where it looked like he was with his security council. We're going to look at that footage. So a lot of interesting finds that we're learning. But I don't think Netanyahu's alive. I still think we are going to learn that he either died, and I still think these are the two possibilities. Either Netanyahu was killed, or Netanyahu is faking his death, and he's probably going to flee to some other country like Berlin. Because, again, there was a flight tracker that showed Netanyahu circling the Mediterranean for a couple hours, and then he flew directly to Berlin. So, interesting developments with all that. I don't think he's dead. I think he's probably hiding out a lot like Hitler did, like Napoleon did. A lot of these great leaders, I'm not saying they're great people, I'm saying they're great leaders, admired for achievement, admired for ambition, those sort of things. Power. Those kinds of people are usually exiled throughout history. They're never even really killed, and they're almost used to an advantage to some degree. So I don't think if this is the whole psyop, that's what I believe the psyop will be. I think he's probably still alive. Maybe they want people to think he's dead, and they keep releasing these AI videos that way, and that's their way of faking his death. This could be a reverse psyop that many people just weren't really expecting. So we're going to be looking at all the Netanyahu footage soon. We're just getting through the rest of these Trump highlights.
In Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm really not afraid of anything.
Because you don't have to go over there and fight. I'm not afraid of anything. Like, that sounds great on camera on the script, but it's like you're not going over to fight, though. You're not going over there. You're not risking anything. Our Marines are risking everything. Our SEALs are risking everything. Our special force, our entire U.S. military industrial complex is risking everything by this entire Iran war. China's been tracking all of our military movements, all of our activity. So, we're really screwed at this current time unless we change trajectory.
President Macron has just said in the last hour that he will never join a task force in the Strait of Hormuz until hostilities finish. Yet yesterday you said...
Who said that? Who said?
President Macron of France. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, he'll be out of office very soon, so we'll have to see. I don't know.
Probably. He probably will be. Yeah, here's one of the videos. This was one of the new videos from Netanyahu.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
But I'm going to go back. We're going to look at these later. I want to finish these Trump highlights first, then we'll go back through some of these videos.
Prices are going to drop.
So what's this one? Big statement by Trump. President Trump says oil prices are going to drop like a rock soon when the war with Iran is over. See, more doublespeak. More doublespeak. So we've been following Trump. We know that Trump has been speaking pretty much on two different ends. He's saying that the war in Iran is going to be over in 4 to 5 weeks. It's going to be over really soon. And then he says we're going to hit them so hard that they wouldn't believe it. He'll make statements like, oh, they don't even know what's coming. That he makes statements like, oh, we're just going to bomb them. We'll keep bombing them. We haven't even started yet. All these statements, and then he'll come back and say, oh, well, the war is going to be over soon. So who really knows? I predict that the oil prices are going to go well over $200 a barrel. I don't see us getting out of this war fast unless there is a strategic retreat, unless Donald Trump intentionally pulls the U.S. military out. Our bases are getting bombed. We've lost, I believe, somewhere around 150 troops now, according to what the data is telling us, what the information. And so we're losing troops. We're losing fronts. We're losing ground. And at the same time, China's tracking all of our military movements with satellite. And they're tracking everything we're doing. So it's the same with Iran. All of our enemies are. Why wouldn't they? And they're realizing very fast that we don't have the manufacturing speed or the cost efficiency to really continue this war much longer. We can hit these nations hard one time, a few times, but not over and over and over and over and over again like Iran can, because they can produce these weapons in mass droves at a cheap amount for themselves. So again, here's that statement from Trump.
And as soon as that war's over, which will be soon, your prices are going to drop like a rock. You watch. I've been very good at predicting.
I've been very good at predicting it, he says. Well, let's see what happens. We'll see what happens with the oil prices. What are you guys betting on? I like XLE personally because it's the entire energy market. I've always been a fan of XLE. I mean, again, it kind of covers the entire energy market. A lot of people like to play around with crude oil and, all of that stuff, but it's like, be careful with futures. You can lose a lot of money too. Got to be careful about how you trade. You got to know what you're doing.
You know who that is?
Churchill.
Oh, this was
the
good.
late, great Winston Churchill. And Barack Hussein Obama did not want his bust in this office. Did you know that? And Barack Hussein Obama sent that bust back to England. They didn't want it. And when I came in, I was asked if I wanted it. I said, absolutely, I want it.
What are your thoughts on Winston Churchill now that we know what we know now from X?
Unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill.
So then, let's look at the body language, because then he basically comes back at Trump after this and explains why the Irish always had a problem with Winston Churchill and kind of why a lot of the world has a problem with Winston Churchill today.
No, hold it.
Just could I
hold it?
Just make a number of points. First of all, I think, notwithstanding what has happened, the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the US is very, very important on a number of fronts. And I think we've had issues over the last year or two, but we settled them. And I think many of these leaders engaged with you, particularly on trade initially. Remember all the fuss last year, but we got a landing zone between Europe and the US, and I think we can get a landing zone again. And I think I just met with Keir Starmer last week. The British-Irish relationship is a very important one. Churchill was a great wartime leader, although in Ireland there was kind of a different perspective in terms of during our own war of independence and so on. He created his own bit of difficulties for us. But that said, he was a great wartime hero. Keir Starmer has done a lot to reset the Irish-British relationship.
Yeah, that's bullcrap, though. It's like, look at Ireland today. Did you guys see the clips of St. Patrick's today, or St. Patrick's Day in Ireland today? Like, did you guys see that? I didn't see like one Irish person there in the streets. It was like, it was very like crazy. Some people think that's just fine. Some people think that's great. That's worth celebrating. The fact that an entire race of people is basically being replaced demographically by the Jews, all intentionally, for the Great Replacement, the white replacement, as you could call it. That's the theory, at least. That's the theory swirling around. And I see a lot of truth to that. It does appear that there seems to be a real truth to the European countries really getting hit hard by the Great Replacement, or the Kalergi Plan. And so that's kind of formally the name, you could call it, for what this really is that you're seeing, with all these European countries being flooded by illegal immigrants and how it's really impacting the countries. And then you have the Irish president who's basically, he's advocating for that. He's saying, yes, this is a good thing. We want more foreign labor. Doesn't even address it. Ireland's just as bad as the UK today, is just as bad as Germany. And I'm not just saying like immigration is bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is that it is illegal immigration, and these people are this is more than immigration. This is a pure invasion. And a lot of the men coming to Ireland and the UK and Germany, these are military-aged men. These are 26-year-old guys. These are well, trained dudes to fight. They come over here, they're swinging around swords and knives, they're stabbing people in the streets, they're raping girls like crazy. Maybe not in Ireland as much, but it's still happening. It's happening all over Europe. It's happening in the United States as well. So, there's going to be a question soon in the future as to whether or not this country values their identity, and whether or not white people, especially at this current time in history, are going to be willing to preserve their identity and all of these things. Very sad, because what we're seeing in Europe is gone. That's what Trump's about to say.
But I do believe that he's a very earnest, sound person who I think you have a capacity to get on with. You've got on with him before, and you've got on with other European leaders as well.
I'm disappointed in NATO that We spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision. As you probably know, I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people. And I'd always deal with Congress anyway, but I don't need Congress for that decision. But, you know, when you say rethink, I have nothing currently in mind, but I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine. Look, Ukraine would have been over in one day if we didn't help. Frankly, Ukraine would have been over in the first day. They had the best equipment in the world. It was our equipment.
The president has said that your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law.
Who said that?
The Irish president.
Look, he's lucky I exist. That's all I can say. Because if you're going to allow countries that are sick and demented, and they are demented, to have nuclear weapons, everybody in the whole world should be very thankful. And I'm disappointed in NATO, very disappointed. I'm disappointed in a couple of other countries too. But they should be very thankful that this group of people feels the way we do. Because
The Irish president has said that your war
security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that president should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash?
Okay. Let's see if we're up now. I think we're good now. Sorry about that. Sorry about those technical difficulties there. Had to check, made sure we were all good. I think we're good now. Yeah, my mic ended up popping out here. This little cord right here. This little cord just... Sorry about the interruption there, but we're going to keep going. There we go. Yep, looks like we're going. Sorry for that pause. Thanks for bearing with me. Let's keep on rolling. NASA has confirmed. Yeah, okay, we talked about that. More of these Trump clips. We covered that. Just want to make sure we got through all the Trump clips, because I definitely wanted to cover some of this other content too. Okay, looks like we covered most of the Trump content. We got through that right in time, so that's good. So now we're going to study pretty much what's going on with some of the financial that. Let's double check, but we're going to listen to him while I'm looking.
The most important legal clarity in its history. The problem, it could be gone in 3 years. Here's what happened. For months, lawmakers have been working on the Clarity Act, the bill designed to permanently define what's a security, what's a commodity,
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it passed formally yet.
and who regulates what in crypto. It hasn't passed. So the SEC and CFTC got impatient and decided to write it themselves. Here's what they decided. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other network tokens, not securities. NFTs, memes, trading cards, in-game tokens, all not securities. Utility tokens, memberships, credentials, not securities. Stable coins, not securities. Mining, staking, wrapping, airdrop, none of it triggers security laws. The only crypto that is a security, tokenized stocks and bonds. That's it. Here's why that matters. For a decade, SEC enforcement was hanging over every project.
Okay, more like XRP. XRP was taking the hits way before everybody else.
Every
when it
exchange,
comes to the SEC.
every token. Entrepreneurs left the U.S. for fear of being literally imprisoned. Billions sat
Sure,
on the
yep,
sidelines.
that happened.
That overhang just lifted, and the SEC even called its own prior approach an utter failure for choosing to regulate by enforcement. But here's what most people are missing. This is regulatory guidance, not law. The next administration can reverse every word of it on day one. The only thing that makes this permanent is Congress passing the Clarity Act. That's why none of crypto has moved on this news. While we have more clarity, it's unfortunately only temporary.
Yep, absolutely. That's pretty good analysis. Yeah. Sure, Nick O'Neill, follow him on X. Be sure to follow his account. He's got some good stuff. Joe Kent, what's up with this? Joe Kent, who was very much for Trump. He was for a lot of this entire movement, right? After much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effectively today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. It has been an honor serving under POTUS and DNI Gabbard and leading the professional at NCTC. May God bless America. This is the letter that he had written. President Trump, after much reflection, we kind of read that part. Read the second part there. I support the values of foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 24, which you enacted your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of precious lives and of our patriots and depleted the wealth of the prosperity in our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to swift victory. This was a lie, and it was the same tactic that the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of the American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reserve course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Joseph Kent, Director of the National Counterterrorism Center. So it's pretty sad, but you also have to remember that Joe Kent, he was like really against Nick Fuentes, who was warning against all of this. Fuentes said it first. He really did. Nick Fuentes said, hey, watch out for this Trump administration. They're going to bite you. They're going to bite you. And look at what they did. So he condemned Nick Fuentes a while back, and essentially I'll give him a follow. I thought I was already following Joe Kent. So that's kind of what happened with that. So what do you guys think about Joe Kent basically resigning and leaving this position of power? Me personally, I think he should have stuck it out. I don't think anybody who holds a political position of power should just leave, not unless you are being pushed out in a way that threatens your life perhaps or your family's life. Then maybe I can understand that. But, you know, you're serving your country, you're serving Congress. I understand. But at the same time, it's like, you know, who can expect any soldier to go and fight and die for Israel and want to support this, especially when this man lost his wife? You know, he lost his wife because of an Israeli funded war, Iraq, where we were there for 10, 20 years and nothing got accomplished. We destroyed everything with Israel. And for what? So they could rebuild everything, and nothing really changed for them. But it changed for us, and it changed for the lives of our soldiers and soldiers who lost their friends, their brothers and sisters, you know. So that's why we can't be involved in never-ending wars, because in order to win a war, you have to have an army who wants to win the war. You know, in order to win any war, you have to have an army who is motivated by the idea of winning this war. So it's kind of my take on that. So this was the video that released from the Ayatollah Alazira Arafi. Who knows if this is real? Hey, Grok, tell me about this video. Does it feature Netanyahu? So this is a video footage of allegedly Netanyahu and his team basically being killed in this strike.
From Israeli officials in which Israeli prime can be seen dying in an Iranian missile strike.
Again, we're just analyzing things here, so we're not saying anything actually happened or didn't happen. Again, we are analyzing the truth. We're trying to determine the truth and what actually may or may not have happened, right? So then we go, let's look at the comments. We'll see what Grok had to say. No, this grainy black and white clip doesn't feature Netanyahu. It alternates between a dim indoor meeting, men at the table, Iranian-style flag on the wall. Iranian? It's a white Israel flag on the wall. And blurry, chaotic smoke / explosion footage. It looks like unrelated, old, or low-quality stock. None of the figures match Bibi's appearance. Okay, I don't know about that. So, yeah, I mean, you got a lot of fake news. You're always going to have a lot of fake stories here. That's why you'll see me while I'm doing these live streams. I'll literally fact-check all of it. So now I wanted to go back. Let's actually look at this video. This is the new video. There's actually another video that we're going to watch too that Netanyahu released for a proof of life video. This came right from Netanyahu 8 hours ago. Crossing names off the list is good. Doing it shoulder to shoulder with our American friends is even better. Good to see Ambassador Huckabee. Always a pleasure.
Mr. Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
So there was a lot of things with this video why people thought it was fake. One, it was the size of his ear, and his ear kind of shapeshifts. Also, Huckabee's head changes right there. Actually, right where I just unpaused. So we'll go frame by frame. You see his head? So some people will say this is natural. It's a natural movement of the forehead and the change of the shape. But what do you guys think here? This is what people are saying.
Sure you were okay.
It's when his face changes. Right there. So yes, the facial expression changes on Mike Huckabee's face. But right here, 3, 2, 1, pay attention. And then his head shoots up there and everything changes. So some are saying that, oh yeah, that's because he smiled, he showed emotion. Others are saying that that was a rapid transition of the face and didn't look quite right, didn't look quite real. Okay?
Yes, Mike.
I also think that's kind of fake. That sounded a little fake to me, like, yes, Mike, I am alive.
Yes, I'm alive.
I checked that, and I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to make sure because, you know, you guys...
I also think it's fake because there's actually some cuts in this video you can see if you pay attention. So it looks like, I mean, they did a pretty poor job. Actually, they didn't do a super poor job. But you can kind of tell where they made the cuts in the video.
Make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike.
Right there. That was one. So there was a cut in that frame right there.
Yes, Mike.
Right there. Again. Right before he says, yes, Mike.
Yes, Mike. Yes, Mike. Yes, Mike.
And what I'm pointing out is that the scene is switching.
Yes, Mike.
You can see the jump cut.
Yes, Mike. Yes, Mike.
You can see the cut.
Yes.
You can also see the guy in the background's head moving in a way that suggests that it was cut.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
I checked that, and I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to make sure because, you know, you guys get along too well.
I know.
Again, the nose is still different. He's still again, the hair looks exactly the same. He's glowing in a way that suggests that this is AI also.
And we shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand, you know, but I have to tell you, I'm alive.
This is such a total psyop. Like, whether Netanyahu's alive or dead, this is a total psyop on the American people, on the entire planet.
But I have this card.
I think Netanyahu's alive. I think he's just hiding somewhere. I think they're hiding him.
It's a punch card. Today, I raised 2 names on the punch cards, and you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Oh, good for you. So another thing people were pointing out is that Netanyahu's finger, his index finger, seems to disappear here a little bit. I don't know how much. I mean, that seems like kind of a stretch, but what do you guys think? So he has 4 fingers here. I wish I could zoom in a little bit more. Right here, you can see Netanyahu's fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then his thumb, 5. Then you see Huckabee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right at this millisecond, pay attention to Netanyahu's right index finger. Now it's not there.
Your name.
Is it behind the sleeve, maybe? But we only see 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. No 5th finger here.
List of the good.
So again, maybe that index finger is right behind Huckabee's sleeve right here. Maybe that's why you can't see it.
Guys.
Thank you.
And
But that certainly looks a little weird to me. So you almost got to pause these frame by frame in order to see if there's anything strange.
U.S. forces are doing is incredible. We're very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. And getting rid of these lunatics who'd like to develop nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to every American city after wiping out Israel.
Every time he says that, I feel like he's really talking about America. Like he's telling you his plans for America.
They ain't going to do that. We're wiping them out.
I love it. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
The AI is getting crazy, though. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This is an excellent video. This is actually a much better AI version, a much better AI dub. I mean, if you're going to try, faking your death and doing an AI dub or whatever, this is the way to do it.
Thanks. Take care.
So, yeah, I think they used a lot of Palantir's tech, a lot of their stuff. So we watched some of the Trump clips. I wanted to listen to Scott Ritter's analysis on this, too.
What he's asking.
So let's take a listen.
If it was that easy, we would. Who among you is ready to commit suicide on my behalf? That's literally what he's asking.
Trump.
If it was that easy, we would have done it. I mean, we have the force capacity right there. You don't need to go to NATO.
If you guys didn't know this guy, Scott Ritter was a former U.S. Marine, so I enjoy his analysis. I take his analysis to heart because obviously anybody who's really served their country and fought for their country, they kind of understand.
Shipping that's inferior to ours. We have, the Arleigh Burke class destroyer. We have, very good class cruisers. We have aircraft carriers that can provide air cover. We should just be able to, if it's this easy for Donald Trump to sail in and sweep the straits. Except it's not that easy. If we tried to do that, we'd lose every single ship we sent in there. They wouldn't make it to the gauntlet. And fortunately for the Europeans, they're smart enough to understand them. And unfortunately for the president, you don't start a war of choice, which is also an illegal war of aggression.
Sure.
And
I
then
agree.
17 days later, when everything's going bad, start saying, hey, who's here? Who's going to come and help me? You didn't talk to them beforehand. You ignored them. You belittled them. And now you need help and you want them to come. I mean, this is why, I say Netanyahu, but it's the same thing. Trump's form of diplomacy has failed. The arrogance of the United States and saying, we're the best, we're the superpower, nobody's as good as we are. We don't need you. And suddenly we find out that we do need them. And they're not ready to come to our aid. And now the president has said some other things too, such as if NATO doesn't come to our assistance, this might be the end of NATO, which I actually think is probably the direction we're going here. So this may very well be the end of the NATO alliance. I thought it would be triggered over Ukraine, but it appears it's going to be triggered over Iran.
Yeah. Interesting. So, no, they're still going to take Ukraine, though, because that is part of the Greater Israel Project, the Pax Judaica agreement, the Abraham Accords. That is going to happen. Gaza, New Gaza, that's going to happen. They're going to build it. The Abraham Accords, you're going to see real estate developers soon start to go out there once they've cleared these Palestinians that they want to ethnically cleanse, the Israelis. Then they're going to essentially build an entirely new city there. And that's the plan. And they're going to do that once they essentially have destroyed Iran, because they'll be able to control the Strait of Hormuz and all of the trade that basically is going to and through the Middle East. And so that's kind of the plan. That's the real plan. So as we continue looking at this, we'll kind of see where we're at. French General Yakovlev, yeah, we looked at that already. This was a clip from Harrison Smith that I wanted to play. He always gives good analysis, though, on the Alex Jones Show, InfoWars. I'm a big fan of Harrison Smith. I think he gives a good analysis, good breakdowns that he typically has. So
during the Operation Midnight Hammer in June of 2025, Donald Trump was asked by a reporter, who said to him, your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, says Iran is not close to having a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump responded to that person saying, I have other intelligence. That's wrong. Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard is the head of the ODNI, which is the office that sits on top of all of our national intelligence, right? It is the managing structure on top of the CIA and the NSA and all of it. So she has all of the intelligence that America creates. All of the intelligence, all the information gathered by our intelligence agents is funneled up to her. She said Iran didn't have a weapon. So where was Trump getting his information?
Totally.
It doesn't take a genius to figure it out.
Right.
We know it wasn't from American intelligence. Gee, I wonder what intelligence operation was feeding Trump information that we have to go to war with Iran. I wonder who it could possibly be. Maybe we'll take calls. You can give me some suggestions because I'm lost here. I couldn't imagine where you could possibly be getting this information.
Yep.
Except it's exactly the same location where the weapons of mass destruction were sourced from in the Iraq War the first time. Because again, this is a cycle that we're going to break one way or another.
And that is the Alex Jones Show. There's a little bit of Alex Jones for the day. Had to get a little bit of Alex Jones vibes in there. Ben Shapiro, I wanted to play this clip as well. Ben Shapiro is just going off, right? I mean, not a huge fan of Ben Shapiro. What do you guys think about this clip? I think Ben Shapiro is a total anti-American. I think he really has no place in the media. Just completely a washout. Completely a sellout for his... Well, he's not really a sellout, right? He is fighting for his people, the Jewish people, the state of Israel. So I couldn't really call him a sellout. I would call our own politicians a sellout. Maybe even Matt Walsh for still continuing to work with the Daily Wire. I sure wouldn't. Listen to this analysis.
Well, this morning, Joe Kent quit his job at the National Counterterrorism Center and issued a scathing letter designed to undermine President Trump. The letter is deeply conspiratorial. It states openly that, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Now, that is conspiracy trash.
Conspiracy trash. Ben Shapiro says that it is conspiracy trash. So, with that being said, no, it's not conspiracy trash. The truth is that everything Joe Kent said was correct. We did not want to get into this war with Iran. It doesn't benefit America to be in this war with Iran. It benefits Israel, indeed, though. And so we also bombed 195 school children. We also, all unprovoked, in efforts to secure the Greater Israel Project. All of this only makes sense if you understand this entire plot, this entire plan here.
It's also kind of strange since President Trump has said that it's conspiracy trash. So apparently, Trump is so deeply enthralled
or blackmailed
to those strange, powerful American lobbies. We're not going to say it.
AIPAC.
That he apparently has been so bamboozled by them that he's still under the impression that he's his own man. But here's the thing,
Did Ben Shapiro just say that Trump is the bitch of the Israelis? Did he just say it?
That he's still under the impression that he's his own man. But here's the thing, President is still under the impression that he's his own man. He's still under the impression that he's his own man. He's still under the impression that he's his own man. He's still under the impression that he's his own man by them. That he's still under the impression that he's his own man. But here's the thing, President Trump is his own man. He makes his own decisions. And as per our usual arrangement, Trump's critics are cowards who are simply unwilling to acknowledge that Trump is the one.
I guess I'm a coward.
Have
you ever served your country, Ben Shapiro? Have you ever put on a badge or a gun? Have you ever served your country? Have you fought for the IDF? Have you gone out there and killed innocent Palestinians like you're supposed to do according to your people? No, you haven't done any of that. You sit behind a camera, you sit behind a microphone, and you talk. And that is, the true understanding that these people don't want to come to. Is that they're not willing to fight. One of the main reasons that you see a lot of the Zionists in Brooklyn and a lot of the places today, even in Israel, they're protesting against their own government. Well, they want you to believe that they're protesting all of the horrors that Israel is doing. Well, in the meantime, they are settling Lebanon right now, specifically for national security reasons. They want to take Lebanon and basically use it as a front, a base. And so they're launching white phosphorus in the skies, which is sulfuric acid. And then they're launching pesticides all over their farms, the Lebanese farms. Same things are happening in Syria. The same thing's going to happen in Iran that you saw in Gaza. Same thing's going to happen in Lebanon that you saw in Gaza. So this is what's happening. And it's like, will these people do the same thing to Americans if they were ever given the chance? And it's like, yeah, they will, I think.
But Joe Kent continued, quote, early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pre-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. Again, the idea here seems to be that President Trump is a moron, misled into war by nefarious Israelis and unnamed influential members of the American media.
You guys literally admit it. Like, the Israelis will admit that they're doing everything that Ben's saying they're not doing. This is like textbook gaslighting.
Yeah, don't say it. Again, apparently President Trump has no agency and no thoughts. Kent's letter is replete with...
I can definitely agree with that. Trump, it seems to me that Trump is the Jewish Messiah, their Jewish Messiah, and he is working on behalf of Israel, and we have a traitor as a president at this current time. Whether it's because of blackmail or whether it's because he's bought off by Mario Mendelsohn, $500 million now, come on, let's do the math. Let's just be objective about it. Trump is owned by Israel. That's what's happening here, and Ben Shapiro, his job is to make sure the American people don't wake up to that, especially the MAGA crowd, the Trump supporters, because they need the Trump supporters to be on board with this Iran war because they want to win in 2028. So if they can get the MAGA movement back on track and back on board with being okay with fighting and dying for Israel, for another country, for an apartheid state, an ocean away, then, everything can be okay. See, this is the message that they're trying to send.
It's conspiratorial idiocy, including...
I consider this clear and downright domestic terrorism, personally. What we're seeing with this Israeli occupation in our government, absolutely, I do see that as a real threat to sovereignty in America, to independence, and I think it is dangerous. It's a dangerous way of thinking, because it leads to leads down a dark road of civil war, I think.
As we just saw, the idea that it was Israel that forced the original Iraq war, an idea totally and utterly...
Let's talk about the dancing Israelis if we want to suggest that 9/11 wasn't an inside job by the Israeli government. Let's just be real about it.
Unsupportable.
What was the point of 9/11? What was the point of the Twin Towers falling? Well, we needed a reason, right? 3,000 Americans died. You felt terrible about that. You felt that you had to go and fight because of that. Remember the movie American Sniper? Shows Chris Kyle. He's in the bathroom. His wife says, "Honey, look at the TV." And then he sees the Twin Towers completely, he sees the controlled demolition, which was 9/11. And then he wants to fight. And that was a lot of our greatest men. Some of our greatest men, our toughest men, went to Iraq, fought, and died in the desert to have their jewelry, their wedding rings totally stolen from them in combat after they were shot, blown up, whatever. And what did George Bush say about it? Well, we need to go back and kill the terrorists. And it's like, what did Bill Clinton say? Well, we need to go back and kill the terrorists. And it's like, what did Trump say? We need to go back and we need to get the terrorists. They have a nuclear weapon and it's going to be huge. And it's like, you look at all of these people and it's like, these people have never fought and served their country a day in their life outside of politics, right? Like they've never actually been to a battlefield. And you look at that, and I'm saying fought in a battlefield. They've never actually risked their real life. And if anything, Trump has probably risked his life more than anybody, been shot in the ear. But now there's speculation as to whether or not that was a staged event. Who knows? I think it was real, but you never know. So what's the real story with all of this? Trump, Israel, who is Trump working for?
By any evidence, given the fact that the actual prime minister of Israel at the time, Ariel Sharon, opposed the Iraq war. This stuff is brain rot. Now listen, we should all be thankful for Joe Kent's long and honorable military service. We can also be glad that he's leaving, since his ideology is the same as that of Tucker Carlson, the guy...
What is wrong with Tucker Carlson to the Jews? Why are they so against Tucker Carlson? Because they call Tucker Carlson a Jew hater. No, Tucker Carlson is not a Jew hater. That's completely false. Tucker Carlson is one of the most renowned names in media. And the worst thing you could say about Tucker Carlson is that his father served in the CIA. That's pretty much the worst thing you can say. You could also argue that, okay, maybe he interviews too many foreign leaders, a little shady. But you look at this and it's like, why do they really not like Tucker Carlson? Why do they really not like him? Well, the reason is that he's addressing the genocide happening in Gaza. He's talking about Lebanon, which is being settled by the Israelis by force, not by deals, not by diplomacy, by force, by pure force. Genocide, you could call that. And so when you look at these things, this is really what's going on.
Who says that the war is disgusting and evil and who has been busy sexting with mullahs. Tucker Carlson calls Kent a personal friend and, quote, the bravest man I know. Frankly, I think that it is a good thing that Kent is not in this position. We cannot have a director of counterterrorism who is somehow advocating preemptive surrender to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism,
which is Israel,
in the middle of a war.
And so that was Ben Shapiro and his statements on that, what he had to say about Joe Kent, resignation to Trump today. Listen, I think it's safe to say, Trump isn't working for the American people anymore. Trump doesn't work for you. He works for Mario Mendelsohn. You didn't give him $250 million, guys. You didn't do that. No, you didn't invite Trump on Epstein Island, okay? You didn't have an island. You were a loser. You went to your job. You went to church. You did what you had to do, you loser. And, you know, these elites, they went and partied. They had fun. They stuffed their face with beautiful 5-star restaurant foods, and you paid for war. And that's what we're getting now. And it's very sad to see it. So now, I mean, it's very clear as day. I mean, Trump is working for the Israeli government. Whatever that means, whether that means Trump is blackmailed or bought off. These things need to just be accepted at this point, because there's really just no denying it. There's absolutely no loyalty or fealty to Trump's base, of which actually voted him in. Again, we talked about that. The Save America Act, that's looking like that's going to pass. Covered some of those other stories, covered oil a little bit. We covered the Trump Ireland speech here, some of what he had to say. Looks like we're just going into more war with Iran. This blows my mind. How are you going to throw somebody in jail and confiscate their water system all because the rain landed on his land? Yeah, this is an interesting video I did want to play. So check this out. As your real estate agent, your favorite real estate agent, Brendan Ecker, I need to tell you, you need to pay attention to what's going on with your real estate laws in your local communities and what your local towns. Got to be paying attention to the rights that these city council people are trying to take away from you on your own land, right? This is why I always say, even as a real estate agent, your land is never your land. You know, your land is what you can protect, what you can defend, and then what you can afford to pay the bills for. And sadly, that is the country we live in. Because just look at this video, you tell me what you think.
An Oregon man was convicted and sent to jail for collecting and using rainwater on his own property, sued by the state for theft.
Just doing his own thing. Just totally being a free person, a free citizen, minding his own business, using the water and recycling the water that is falling on his own land.
Gary Harrington built 3 large reservoirs on his own land to collect rainwater and snow melt. He claimed the water was primarily for fire protection reserves and for providing water to wildlife. But the state called it theft and prosecuted Gary. A municipal...
It's like any city council who is like this. You need to storm into the city councils, and you need to make sure they know that they will never tell you that this is allowed. Okay, there needs to be pushback against this. There needs to be real revolution against this. The government telling you, you know, this kind of stuff. Like, you can't collect rainwater on your own land. Listen, maybe we don't know the whole story here, but let's just keep listening.
Code stipulates that all water within city limits, including precipitation, is part of the public water supply. The city requested the court order the removal of his collection system and impose a fine. Despite Harrington's repeated appeals, arguing, the water fell on my land, I'm not selling it. I'm simply using it on my own property. The court ultimately rejected his claims. Harrington was found guilty on multiple charges, including unlawful appropriation of state water resources.
Because he's too smart, because he cracked the code, because he's recycling water and he's using free energy. Look at that. And he gets punished for it because we live in a society of idiots, okay? We live in a society of idiots. Like, we don't have smart people in our society like this man who's collecting his own water. He's living, he's self-sustaining, doing what he's got to do. That's an American. And then his rights being trampled on by some city council person who's probably obese, probably out of shape, probably knows nothing about the government, probably knows nothing about the U.S. Constitution, probably never read the book George Washington, and they sit in Congress comfortable as they judge you when you try to walk in and give your statements, and then they tell you, no, you can't have your own water that falls from the sky on your own land. We have that water. That's our water. The rain that falls from God is our water as the city council.
Sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. The incident sparked intense backlash.
Insane.
Jail and fined over $1,500. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. The incident sparked intense backlash. Residents said it was simply tyranny. If a person cannot own the rain that falls on their own land, what do they actually own?
Nothing. You own nothing. You own absolutely nothing. And pretty much you own what you can afford to own, and you own what you can defend. And that's ultimately the truth about real estate. You want to know why they call mortgage a mortgage? Many of you probably knew this. Maybe you already knew this. Mortgage stands for death note in Latin. That's what it means. It's a death note. You're signing off your own death note. I don't know who this guy is.
Shit like that. That made absolutely no.
Yeah, I don't know what that last part
An
was,
Oregon
but
man was-
I guess he was just agreeing with the fact of how crazy that was. You never own your own land, and I'm saying this as a realtor, okay? You never own your own land. If you do want to invest in real estate, you want to make some money, some cash flow, work with me. I'll help you figure out the right ways to own real estate. I'll help you make sure that you're avoiding all the pitfalls that many other investors do. And the ultimate dream here is to make sure you can accomplish your American dream. The ultimate idea is to make sure that the government isn't taking your land and stealing what's yours because they make rules up so they can own the land. That's corruption, right? So as a realtor, I'm against that. That's why I talk about it. So work with me, shoot me a DM, leave a comment. If you're interested, we'll work together. We'll figure out your situation, real estate, whatever it is.
Enemy to train
So listen to this.
tens of millions. We are going to train 100,000 Christian ambassadors to be ambassadors in their own country for the state of Israel, to defend Israel's brand
If those Christians are like me, then you will fail, my friend.
and to combat anti-Semitism. Now, the beautiful part...
Like, we are not anti-Semites. We don't believe in hatred of anybody. As Catholics, as Christians, we believe that all human beings are created equally. We believe that the human being is entitled to human rights, which means the ability to pursue happiness, life, liberty, tranquility, and all of these things. And peace, prosperity, all of these things. And to transcend above the current world we're in. You know, we all want to get to the next level. And so, as Americans, as Christians, we don't agree with this, with what he's saying. They want to use the guides of anti-Semitism as an excuse to silence you and to silence the masses. They want to use anti-Semitism, the term itself, as a Trojan horse for further suppression of speech, for really using these things to dismantle the First Amendment long-term, and then Second Amendment long-term as well. Because if you don't have the First Amendment, guess what you can't fight for? The Second Amendment. But if you don't have your Second Amendment, guess what you can't defend? Your First Amendment. And so if you have both of these things, then you're pretty powerful as an American, really. So there's a reason our founding fathers wrote the Bill of Rights in such a way. The First Amendment, your right to freedom, or your freedom of speech, press, religion, ideas. And then, of course, your Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms against a tyrannical government. And in this case today, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a tyrannical regime in the state of Virginia. They want to take away your guns. That's a new law now. And so it's just, it really leads to question what comes next. You know, I remember during COVID when they tried to ban the guns, and it was all the BLM stuff, all of the propaganda, the PSYOP, that basically the silencing, the censorship PSYOP that the United States government and CIA kind of worked with hand in hand to kind of perpetrate. Of course, Israel and Mossad too. And an interesting thing I noticed is that the American cops that I was working with, again, I was a cop at the time, and we weren't going to enforce those laws. I was in the academy actually at the time, but we had conversations about it, and we had said, no, I'm not enforcing those laws. If they ever make laws against taking guns away from Americans, nope, I'm never enforcing them. And I think that's just an American thing to do. It is part of the Second Amendment. Those rights shall not be infringed. And anybody who says that, that's your enemy, truly. Your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, most important amendments. And they protect your freedom of speech, which is what the ADL and these organizations are trying to stop, the freedom of speech. And not just that, the freedom to criticize and question the government's agenda, whatever that agenda might be. Today, in this current place and time, the agenda of the government is to take over Iran, is to take over the entire Middle East to become the greatest superpower and really to become a master trade route. That is the goal of the Israelis right now, and they're using our government to pay for it and to do it. Our taxation, our American people are paying taxes for this to exist, and now it's time to rise up and say, no, we're not going to be treated like this, actually. You're not going to come into America and tell us how to be when you guys don't appreciate America, you don't appreciate Christianity, you don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. No, you won't come into my country and tell me what I can and can't say. So this is kind of what I wanted to show you, just because of this is really revealing the PSYOP of what we are seeing on the fifth column, which owns the United States.
About this is we're partnering with Blackboard. Blackboard is the largest
I used Blackboard in college. Who else used Blackboard in college?
platform in the world, serving Harvard, Yale, all the major universities. We'll train these wonderful Christian evangelicals so that they can fulfill what I am doing for the state of Israel. Secondly, we're creating FOSS-I, an online academy to train tens of millions of evangelicals. The power of the evangelical muscle is enormous.
So what are you hearing from this? This looks to be like an Israeli spokesperson, and he's stating that they are going to use the Christian evangelicals. What does that mean, evangelical? He didn't say Catholic. He said Christian. And it's because the Christian denominations, there's so many of them. There's Lutheranism, there's Baptism, there's Presbyterianism. There's all these different versions of it. And, you know, when you have these different sects of Christianity, you don't have a serious one unless you really fall back to the Catholic Church. And that's where all of this stems from. So they never mention the Catholic Church. They're going to use the Christian evangelicals, the Christians, the Christians who maybe have never read the actual Bible through and understood and interpreted the Bible and the words and the history, the archaeological histories even, the sciences. See, when you understand that Christianity is the most attacked religion because of this, because the early tiers of Christianity, the first levels of Christianity, you have people who are honestly broken. A lot of broken people become Christians, and because they want to be saved. And so they go on this journey, and eventually they transcend with this religion. Just like any other religion, you learn the way. And so you have the people who are the beginner Christians, as I call them, the Christian evangelicals. They haven't really come to the Catholic Church yet. They don't really understand the histories, the doctrines of this. They don't understand the difference between Judaism and Christianity. So they really believe that Judeo-Christianity is actually this real thing, when it isn't. It never was. And you can go and look up the Catholic doctrines, the histories on that, look up the Jewish Encyclopedia, and, you know, it'll tell you the same thing. Two different religions.
It represents almost 1 billion people. But no one ever harnessed it. And we're doing that here. The second thing I want to announce is in our Friends of Zion Museum, we are going to build the Donald Trump exhibition.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they are building the Donald Trump exhibition? Why? Because Trump is Jewish. I know. You can say he's not. You can say that's not true, but it is. And that's just the facts that we're dealing with. The Jews see Donald Trump as the Messiah. They see him as their Messiah. Their Messiah who is going to bring forth the Israeli state, the Zionist state of Israel, and that final place. And then also to rebuild the third temple. That is the objective of Donald Trump, according to the Jewish people. And so, we can pull up a video of rabbis talking about the same thing.
No president in American history has done more for the state.
There he is. There's Donald Trump in the kippah, kissing the Wailing Wall.
Than Donald Trump.
Remember, Donald Trump never put his hand on the Bible his second time being inaugurated.
We're the ones that got President Trump elected, and will do it again. He who defines the terms controls the debate. The Media Center is indeed a gift to Israel. You can use it for any event you want for the foreign ministry, etc., because we are doing this all for Israel. It's all about Israel.
And there's the confession. There's the confession. Whenever the Jews tell you, oh, you Ben Shapiro, for example, he just said, everybody always thinks that the Jews run everything, that Israel runs everything. Well, what did he just say? What's on the screen right now? It's all about Israel.
We're doing this all for Israel. Because we are 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 doing this all for Israel. It's all about, because we are doing this all for Israel. It's all about Israel. There's something even bigger.
Thank you.
That we are because
he finally
we are doing
said it. Now I'm not crazy. Now I can't be called crazy because these people admit it, that it is all about Israel.
This all for Israel. It's all about Israel. There's something even bigger that we are focusing on, even bigger than a great prime minister. It's called the State of Israel, the majestic State of Israel.
The Greater Israel Project.
That is not a banana republic. It's not a place. It's distinguished for the first time in history.
These people are lunatics.
This precious nation has the respect of virtually the entire world, with the exception of Iran and North Korea
and Gaza and Lebanon and the United States and anybody who isn't Jewish, which is what they call goyim or cattle.
with the exception of Syria.
Oh, forgot about Syria.
And that's such a compliment. My wife's made enormous sacrifices
So
for me
fucked
in
up.
leadership. And when I married her, I said, I have to be honest. There's another woman in my life. She said, what? I said, Israel. I love her so much. I have to be with her a lot.
Weird. So does it not make sense? So when you're in your college classroom, when you're in your high school classroom, and you have all the liberals and all of the people in the class who know nothing, but they still think that they can have a political opinion, but they don't care about politics, they know nothing about it, they know nothing about these issues, pull this video up. Just pull this one up. And just play them that. That's all they'll really need to hear. So moving on. Breaking: Trump has totally destroyed Cuba's electrical grid. Yes, and big news there.
A complete and total collapse. This is according to the country's power operator. It's the first nationwide blackout since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to Cuba.
Wow. Yep. That's what's happening. Yep, wanted to play this too because it's like you can't stress it enough that there is a difference in this country than what there used to be. Because of diversity specifically, yes, I'm saying it. Diversity destroyed America. I'll say it one more time. Diversity destroyed the United States of America. It is a bioweapon. It is a way that is used in war. It is an art of war to use mass migration against your enemies in war. You must understand this. The CIA, we've been doing this for a long time to other nations. We've been destroying nations, overthrowing regimes for many years. You got a small village of 100 people. What happens when I send 1,000 of a completely opposite kind of people to that village? Well, it's their village now, that opposite kind of people. And suddenly that village, that wholesome, beautiful village that maybe even existed for hundreds of years, that small, tiny village will be destroyed because of migration and diversity. So you keep telling me how liberal we need to be as a society. You keep telling me how diversity is a good thing when you watch this video. You tell me what you think. You tell me if you want to go, if you would rather be on the top video thing here or the bottom. Where would you want to be? This is Daytona on the bottom video that you're watching. Where would you rather be on vacation? Guys, we're living in a foreign country here. We're living in a real foreign land. We are literally becoming a third world country. This is third world behavior. This is what happens when a society becomes stupid, when a society becomes ignorant of their history, when they ignore the future, and when they care about nothing. And they don't care about politics, they don't pay attention, and they have no values, no respect, no Christianity, no root, no soul. And then this happens to your society. And again, do I have to make the most interesting observation? All of this is diversity because I don't see one white person on the bottom video here. And again, I know that has nothing to do with whites versus blacks and all that, but we have to really consider that there is a real difference. There's too much diversity in America is the point I'm making. Too much. And anybody who says otherwise is part of the problem. No doubt about that. Stu Peters tweeted, except for when Charlie Kirk wrote a letter to Netanyahu specifically laying the deaths of thousands of Americans at Bibi's feet, pushing on the idea of war with Iran, and telling him it's on Israel to make the case, which, of course, they couldn't. So they killed him. Yep. This is the letter. You can read it if you'd like. Pause the video. Yep. Iran could do a better job explaining the Iranian threat. Among the many conservatives who support Israel, there is a concern that America could become entangled in a quagmire with Iran. That is from Charlie Kirk to Donald Trump. My generation grew up with disasters in Afghanistan and Iraq. We were promised there were WMDs in Iraq, which proved to be a lie. Our generation was also lied to by governments of Israel and the U.S. that COVID vaccines were safe and effective. Yep. And who was all for the COVID vaccine? Donald Trump was. He was really proud of it. Operation Warp Speed, he called it. We were promised there were our generation was also lied to by the governments of Israel and the U.S. about the COVID vaccines that were safe and effective. Israel intelligence missed the boat on October 7th, but we're asked to trust Israeli intelligence 100% that Iran is on the cusp of obtaining nuclear weapons. Young conservatives are very skeptical of government proclamations. We don't fully trust intelligence assessments. Right now, it seems like Israel is primarily relying on Americans to make the case for attacking Iranian nuclear sites. These arguments get a lot of blowback in MAGA circles. Other than you, Mr. Prime Minister, I see very few Israelis making their case in the media, social media, or podcasts. Many agree with you, myself included, that Iran should not get a nuclear weapon. At the same time, I share a concern that America will get sucked into an endless war costing thousands of American lives. Where are the Israelis who are arguing their case to win over the public opinion? Israel should be making its case 24/7 on social media, including long-form, English-speaking podcasts and social media channels and websites such as Rapid Response Team and ITN. So actually, this was to Netanyahu, it looks like. Still, that's crazy. You know, Charlie Kirk, completely a martyr. What would be happening right now if Charlie Kirk was alive? Do you think Charlie Kirk would have had a chance to be president in 2028? Do you think that was the alternate timeline that they succeeded in avoiding? Because now we have Erica Kirk, all the suspicion there. We have all of this with the Romanian angels and what we know about that, about all of the kids. Very, very dark stuff. Very dark stuff. Breaking, this was 10 hours ago. Israeli just killed the leader of Iran who took over the Khamenei and was killed 3 weeks ago.
This leader accused the US of... Some breaking news. Israel had just killed the leader of Iran, the leader who took over after Khamenei was killed. But you need to know, only hours before this, today, this leader accused the US of planning to carry out another version of 9/11 and blame it on Iran to go to war with them. And people are...
Yeah, and I think we're just waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm not waiting for it. I don't want it to happen. But I'm saying this is something that needs to be expected. I definitely see signs of it possibly becoming a very large potentiality.
Saying they might have killed him today to stop that from coming out. Well, today, Israel said, quote, throughout the years, Larijani was considered one of the most veteran and senior figures within the Iranian leadership. They also said, quote, he was the regime's effective leader after Khamenei was eliminated. Now, if you don't know, after Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, was killed 3 weeks ago at the start of the war, his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was elected to become the new supreme leader. Well, we now know that Mojtaba Khamenei might actually be dead. He might have died in those same strikes. At a very minimum, he's in a coma and he's lost one of his legs, meaning that there had to be a new leader in charge whilst he was in that coma. And that leader was the head of the National Security Council of Iran, called Ali Larijani, and that's who's been killed today. He was the absolute highest in command in Iran at the moment, and 2 hours ago, Israel just killed him. And yesterday, he accused the US of planning to carry out a false flag attack on themselves, similar to that of 9/11. Those were his words. And then to blame it on Iran. I made a video on that, just a few videos before this, so go and watch that because it's a massive accusation.
Yeah, follow Alex Barnicoat. He's been making some pretty good stuff. Are you watching what's happening right now? This morning, JP Morgan told Meta to fire 20% of employees to save $5 billion, literally. Tonight, Meta did it, and the stock surged. Read that one more time. 14,000 people just lost their jobs and Wall Street celebrated. The stock went up. Your job is not an asset to the company. It's a cost, and the market proved it. This is a business model. Fire humans, buy AI. Watch stocks go up, repeat. Your loss is their gain, literally. They freed up 14,000 salaries to buy more GPUs from Jensen. Oh, sorry. Don't want to get any copyright. Wasn't expecting music there. Former military officer Jove Gallant has been killed as the Iron Dome failed to intercept Iranian missiles aimed at his house. It's from 19 hours ago. False claim, it says on X, though. You're going to see a lot of this, though. It seems like anybody who's an Israeli who's killed, it's false claim. It's false information. If there's any Israeli at all that's harmed, it's false information. I keep seeing this on Grok. And then if it's like anybody else, if it's like the Iranian leader, oh, it's confirmed. It's good. It's confirmed. And so it's just like really weird how the algorithm's really wanting everybody to believe that every little thing is fake. Gallant debunked similar rumors on March 5th, 2026, among ongoing... Yeah, well, it's been a while since we've heard from him. The company's video depicts generic nighttime footage of missile streets explosions with overlaid Iron Dome fails. Yeah, that's the thing. You know what? I think people should really start looking into the Israeli leadership. Where are they? Are they all accounted for? Where's the entire Israeli leadership? Where's the second in charge, third in charge, fourth in charge? Are they all accounted for? You know, it's like that's what needs to be looked at. This is what an Israeli Hasbara operation on American soil looks like. Operation was 100% coordinated, and the message was clear: stop talking. They even want Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson to stop talking and asking questions. So yeah, take a look at this post. This is from We Are Not Going to Mars. Follow that account, but that's where this is. It basically breaks down for an hour and 12 minutes, tells you exactly what's going on. This entire social media campaign being perpetrated by Netanyahu in Israel. So another strange video popped up yesterday in the algorithm. Sarah Netanyahu in a Zoom court hearing today, 3/15/20, sits at Jerusalem Magistrates Court for her prepared food affair fraud case, misusing $100,000 in state funds to restaurant meals despite having a cook. Looks like she is traumatized from the death of her husband, Netanyahu. So this is Netanyahu's wife. What do you guys think? By the way, I noticed that, I mean, maybe it's just the video, maybe it's just the camera angle, but it looked like she's like bruised on her cheek there. Like, did she get hit? She looked like she got hit or something. Yeah, she does look traumatized. Who knows? Kind of weird
having
stuff.
A hard time protecting.
So let's take a look at this. The U.S. Navy is the most powerful in history, so why can't it fully protect the Strait of Hormuz? So let's watch this.
The Strait of Hormuz. At first glance, the answer seems simple. The U.S. Navy maintains one of the most powerful fleets in the world, but the geography of this narrow waterway changes the equation. The Strait of Hormuz is only about 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, with just 2 shipping lanes, each roughly 2 miles across. Yet nearly 20% of the world's oil supply moves through this corridor every day. That means even small disruptions can have global economic consequences.
Absolutely.
Iran has spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. Instead of relying on large warships, it built a strategy around asymmetric warfare, fast attack boats, coastal anti-ship missiles, naval mines, and armed drones. Intelligence estimates
Wow, look at this war, though. Like, look at the cluster of this war. This is crazy. Look at how close everybody is to each other, right? All these bases. We got U.S. bases here. We have all this stuff. And it's just like
Iran possesses.
You got naval mines, like 4,000 to 6,000 naval mines sitting here in the Strait of Hormuz in case U.S. ships try to access this.
Thousands of naval mines and dozens of mobile missile batteries positioned along the coastline and nearby islands. During periods of tension, Iranian forces have repeatedly conducted swarm exercises, launching dozens of small boats simultaneously. At the same time, shore-based missile systems can target vessels moving through the narrow shipping lanes.
Not good, guys.
For the United States, the challenge is scale and proximity. Warships can patrol the strait, but they cannot be everywhere at once. Clearing mines, intercepting missiles, and monitoring hundreds of small vessels at the same time is a complex task even for a modern navy, which raises a strategic reality. In the Strait of Hormuz, controlling the water is not the same as controlling the threat, and that could shape the next phase of any future conflict in the region.
Crazy. That's the war.
That's
what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Justin, reports indicate that the Arab Israeli Muslim spokesperson of Israel Defense Forces, Eyal Wow, was killed during Iranian strikes in Israel. Again, I have to fact check a lot of this, right? Like fact checking. That's like what a lot of this is going to be during the war, especially with AI videos today. That's what it's really the most important part about it. Iran has once again launched a barrage of missiles at Israel. This was yesterday, completely bypassing the Iron Dome. What was the media not showing? We're bringing you it immediately. So yeah, that's some of that activity. So let's look at what's happening new in the algorithm. Again, this was just more footage of that same thing. Hezbollah and Iran are plummeting Israel like we've never seen before. Looks like these were their cluster vessels, too. Yeah, they're getting hit hard. Israel's getting hit hard. So let's take a look at some of the breaking news, any kind of new news that's happening in the X algorithm. Then we'll look at some of the markets real quick, and we'll jump out of here. Speech that changed crypto, SEC Chair Atkins introducing token taxonomy. This was released 1 hour ago. So let's check this out. Big news for crypto.
So today, I'm pleased to announce that the SEC's persistent failure to provide clarity on this question is over. As we speak, the Commission is implementing a token taxonomy and investment contract interpretation, and you should find that in your inbox or if you look on the website when you get home.
Big news.
Our interpretation, which is grounded in existing law and informed by extensive public input, establishes 4 asset categories that are not deemed to be securities. So digital commodities, digital collectibles, digital tools, and payment stable coins.
Payment stable coins. That's
under the
XRP.
Genius Act. With these categories in place, the interpretation then clarifies that only one crypto asset class remains subject to securities laws, namely digital securities, which are traditional securities that are tokenized. This distinction returns the SEC to its core mission and statutory authority of protecting investors involved in securities transactions. We're not the Securities and Everything Commission.
If the SEC wouldn't have went so hard on crypto or against Brad Garlinghouse, XRP, if Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't have been the owner basically of Bitcoin and basically the forefront of Bitcoin, if all of these things, the Iran war, all these things in our country that happened, if we didn't have any of that happen, we would have already seen this entire breakout with crypto a long time ago. But we're seeing it now, so that's the most important thing. The question is, will there be actual price action now?
Anymore. So, thank you.
So crypto is the future, and it's going to happen. XRP is reportedly being considered to replace the entire U.S. SWIFT banking system. This would open XRP to a massive 1.5 quadrillion market.
Between banks, and instead, XRP is like a Bitcoin.
This is the CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, speaking.
It's a digital asset.
CEO
it's
of Ripple,
today,
XRP.
the 3rd most valuable digital asset. And what we do is we take a transaction between banks, and instead of having a bank pre-fund an account at the other bank, which is how correspondent banking works today. The Bank of Brad in dollars would pre-fund to the Bank of Julia, perhaps in pounds, and then I would debit and credit that. But that means I have to pre-fund and have dormant capital sitting at that other bank. What we allow banks to do, allow payment providers to do, is to tap into the liquidity of XRP liquidity. So today there's lots of liquidity between XRP and US.
Listen, they're going to need XRP most likely if they do want to. If Trump and the Trump administration does want to annex Greenland, if they want to take Cuba, how are we going to do any of those things just with oil revenue? It's not enough. It's not enough. You know, there's got to be something else to pay off the debt. And I really think it's going to end up being XRP. They'll probably use that to write off the debt. Whether they're running everything off of the RLUSD, whether they're doing it through that avenue, I definitely see that being a pretty likely possibility, as well as Bitcoin. Could be Bitcoin too, but Bitcoin, to my understanding, they're not buying any Bitcoin. They're really investing any kind of seized assets. So if they seize assets, okay, so like Venezuela, any kind of money that was stolen from Maduro's compound when we took him on Operation Absolute Resolve, for example, that money would go into the Bitcoin stockpile reserve. But payment systems like XRP or the company Ripple, these will be used for basically running the entire system. Really, Bitcoin wouldn't be able to exist without XRP. And that's kind of the truth. There's just so much money in Bitcoin that's kind of another reason. One, it was like first, even though XRP was kind of first before Bitcoin. But you know, Bitcoin was supposedly the first, so it has like that greatest market share. It always was like the prototype Bitcoin, and then XRP, I really believe, was meant to be the final product. And then maybe even Solana. You'll see assets like XLM, some of these other tokens. Definitely XLM, which is the company Stellar Lumens. You'll hear a lot about Cardano, which is the company, or the ADA, the token ADA, which is the company Cardano, with the CEO of Charles Hoskinson. Love Charles Hoskinson. But these are some big developments happening in crypto. You know, Ethereum, you'll see movements happening with Ethereum, Avalanche, a lot of these different assets.
There's lots of liquidity in XRP.
I also think probably Dogecoin too, even though it's a meme coin. They just said it right there. The Clarity Act basically means that all of the meme coins now are not considered, non-valuable assets, non-utility assets. So Dogecoin, the Department of Government Efficiency, I think that will be the Dogecoin. I think that will be used to essentially fund Elon Musk's trip to Mars and all of the things that are going to be happening with that.
Pound, and you could tap into that to move value in real time, in seconds. And even compared to Bitcoin, which takes up to 12 minutes to complete one transaction.
Yes, so
XRP
true.
is extremely fast at about 3 seconds.
XRP is just better. XRP is better than Bitcoin. And nobody wants to admit it beside the people who are smart, but it's true. It's like, what is the better purchase? You buy XRP for $1.51, whatever it's at right now. And then you buy Bitcoin for 72,000, whatever the price is at right now. We're going to look at the prices here in a moment.
Seconds per transaction. That has meant XRP is extremely scalable in contrast to how Bitcoin works. The consumer itself doesn't actually see that it's flowing through XRP to solve the problem. What the consumer sees is simply a better product at a better price. And so we're seeing more momentum than we've ever had around using XRP to move this liquidity around the world. And so we couldn't really be happier about how that has played out in a world where there's still a lot, I think, of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt about what's going on in crypto. This is a real...
Well, it's also a market shakeout. The reason there's so much doubt in the crypto market, one, it's a brand new market. It's the Wild West. The second reason is also because it's a shakeout. The banks want a shakeout. They want to shake you out and shake you down and get you to sell your crypto so that way they can scoop it up, buy it up, right? Just like they did with XRP, just like they did with all of the other assets. Bitcoin, you know how many billionaires bought like a shit ton of Bitcoin while you sold yours? You know, while you sold your XRP, whoever you are, you know, you sell these assets, and when the price tanks, guess who buys it up? Larry Fink, you know, Donald Trump, these kinds of guys, right? The Epsteins, these people buy up the assets that you're selling. So you never sell, right? Steve Jobs said that. He didn't sell his Apple stock for 25 years or something like that, right? So you need to be thinking the same way.
Okay, solving a real problem for real customers.
Yeah, I really think XRP appears to be taking first place. I think it might even top Bitcoin one day. I really do. I think that's a very real possibility. Israel has just forcibly closed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and canceled Easter services due to war. Synagogues in Israel remain open. Churches in Iran remain open. So that's very interesting. Very interesting. Israel has forced the closing of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I really can't pronounce that. But that's crazy. So as everybody's feeling so bad for Israel, they're closing down the churches. They're attacking the Christians in Lebanon, in Gaza. That is happening. These are things that just need to be discussed. So again, this was one more video that was released just 3 hours ago by Netanyahu and his team. Again, this is kind of more of the speculation. What do you guys think? Is this real or is this AI? This is the most recent Netanyahu video that was released. A lot of people are saying that it's AI because the shape of the vents on the thing, on the desk here, are different sizes. They think that this is fake. Now, this is actually from a meeting in like 2023 or 2024. We're going to look that up. It's in the comments section. We'll look right after this.
The Chief of Air Force, our senior commanders. In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable...
That's interesting. I mean, maybe I just couldn't see the glasses from a distance, but this guy right here where my cursor is, he like literally just randomly grew glasses right here. Check this out. Look at the zoom in. Let's check out the zoom in. Maybe it's just my eyes too. It could just be bad compression, video compression, obviously. Looks like he doesn't have glasses here.
Tyranny. Our aircraft are hitting...
No glasses. And then the glasses suddenly appear like right here.
It was on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above.
That's interesting.
Squares.
Whoa. We're watching from above this and enjoy the Festival of Fire.
Hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire.
The Festival of Fire. So obviously you got a little bit of tongue in cheek there. You got a little bit of messaging. So whether or not this video is real, the the message is clear. So the Festival of Fire, he wants them to celebrate the Festival of Fire. Is he making an analogy to the Festival of Fire that's going to come regarding like nuclear warfare, missiles? I don't know.
So
what's he really referring to when he says Festival of Fire?
We're watching from above.
And then there's another threat. We're watching from above. Interesting. Alex Barnicoat, thousands of Iranian men are buying tickets to Karg Island to defend against an American invasion. These are not soldiers. They're civilians. They're not even being made to fight. They're choosing to. So another update from Alex Barnicoat. Let's see what he has to say.
Breaking news. Thousands of Iranians are buying plane tickets to go to Karg Island, the Iranian island which the US is trying to attack. And only yesterday, the US announced they might be sending 2,500 troops to that island to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. And these thousands of Iranian men today, which are buying plane tickets to go to this island, are just everyday civilians who want to fight against the US because they hate that the US is attacking their country. For context, Karg Island, if you don't...
Yeah, I mean, how would you feel if the Iranians were coming over to the United States doing the same shit? You know, they're blowing... Imagine if the Iranians blew up an American school with 195 kids. You know, imagine if this happened to us. You know, imagine if they came in here with their troops, their tanks, their missiles, their military, their bases, and they come over here and they start unprovoked attacking us. Unprovoked. That's the key. Again, we're not like some Palestinian sympathizer. We're not like sympathizing with the terrorists here. But what we are doing is objectively looking at the situation and realizing that we attacked Iran unprovoked. They are a sovereign country that they're defending their people. This is not a regime change that Trump is going to succeed in. Their people are unified. They are fighting back, and they're going to fight against American troops, and they are going to kill American troops. And that is going to continue happening. And until we get out of there, we're going to get annihilated. This isn't like doom talk, like, oh, no war, peace, love, and dove. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it makes no strategic or military sense to be in the Strait of Hormuz right now. We just took Venezuela. We're about to take Cuba. So it's like, you know, this is really about China and the petrodollar, maintaining the strength of the petrodollar and oil. That's what this is all about, is oil. Trump doesn't want China to benefit from that oil because it's 20% of the world's oil supply, roughly.
No, it's one of the most important islands in the Strait of Hormuz. It's also reported where Iran keeps a lot of their oil facilities. I will say the US has already pretty much carpet bombed the island, and now they just want territorial control of it. We believe that Iran had already moved their oil reserves from the island, and they put them under the ground. And so we don't really think those strikes carried that much damage. But still, now that there's reports that the US might be considering a ground invasion into this small island, thousands of everyday Iranian men are trying to get to this island to get ready to attack those American troops. I want to make clear, this is not the Iranian army.
Yeah.
These men have not been ordered by the Iranian government
Civilians.
to do this. No, these are just everyday people who hate the US and are happy to fight them on the beaches. We have this video that was taken by a reporter, and it's where a bunch of people are trying to get tickets to get to the island. And the reporter says that there's practically no tickets left to get.
This is not good.
If the US does try and...
Our troops don't want to go and fight this war. I can tell you that right now. Like, our troops are not in this to go and fight and die for Israel. I mean, you're just not seeing that sentiment. And then you have the Iranian troops. They're ready to defend their freedom. They're going to raise hell against us, and rightfully so.
Invade this Karg Island with their 2,500 troops. Not only will they probably be met with a lot of fire by Iran and the Iranian army, but they'll also be met by possibly thousands of everyday Iranian men who are prepared to die to protect their country. I mean, the Iranians seem pretty brave in this war, I will say that. We've definitely seen a lot of videos proving that's even more. But leave me a follow, because as this war escalates, I'll be the first one to keep you updated on everything.
Well, you know, in many ways, the Iranians are happy as hell that Americans did this, that America did this, that Trump was dumb enough to do this, because this just gives them everything they wanted. The Iranians have been wanting to take down America for a very long time. Maybe they haven't been trying for a while, but they've wanted to, and they certainly would if they had a chance, and now they have a chance. Now they have a reason. And it's like, shame on Donald Trump for getting us into this. This is from Ethan Levins. All three of these videos were posted today. Why is he in 3 separate outfits? Huh, that's an interesting observation. Well, I thought this was released yesterday, but I guess maybe this was released today. Huh, interesting. What do you guys think? I think this is Palantir trying to perfect their AI. I do think Netanyahu, there's 2 outcomes I believe are true. I think Netanyahu is either alive, but they're going to fake his death. He's going to fake his death, and the media will run with it. And essentially, he'll be alive. They'll escape him and exile him to some island. And they'll pretty much do what they did to Hitler and Napoleon. They'll exile them. And then, again, fake death. That's kind of what I predict. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I stick to facts. I don't necessarily like to jump into these kind of things of conspiracy theories and whatnot. But I think it's rather important and interesting because these are clearly AI videos that have been generated. And that's what needs to be addressed is like, okay, why the AI videos? Why so many attempts? Right? I mean, eventually they're going to get it right. Eventually the AI is going to be so good. You won't be able to tell what's AI and what's real, and that's ultimately what's being done here. You could call this the moment of singularity. And so perhaps this is because there will come a day, if it hasn't come already, where a politician will release an AI video and it will be so real looking, so real sounding, no fake cuts, no losing the wedding ring like Netanyahu and his fake videos here. There will come a day when there's a video that it looks so real, but it's not. It's AI, but everybody will believe that it's real. And all of those days are coming. But I do think Netanyahu, he's either dead or he's going to fake his death. And that's what I think. I don't think they're going to kill him. I think that if they did kill him, good job. I think that it was a decent strike. It was a pretty good operation if successful. But, obviously we're not going to play this the easy way. You got to look for evidence. You got to look for facts. So we'll kind of analyze and we'll go off of what the media is saying. This guy has been kind of breaking down a lot of the Netanyahu cult here. Or the cult. The entire Netanyahu hoax here. So let's see.
Who is missing behind me at the table? Who's missing? Allahu Akbar.
Oh boy.
Allahu Akbar. Look who is missing.
Oh man.
Who is missing behind me?
So I thought there would be more to that video, to be honest with you. That's kind of why I played it. Didn't realize it was only 14 seconds, and then he said that. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the news for the day. We'll cover a lot of this tomorrow. And I was going to do a morning show today. Just got super busy, had things to do. And a lot of big news in the algorithm today, though. This is kind of what's going on. How are you guys taking things? How are you guys handling it? This is the Coinbase. Well, look at CoinMarketCap real quick. We'll chat that out. Make sure we're all good there. Check out the market. See if anything's new while we were streaming. Yeah, Bitcoin's at 74,070. And then Ethereum's at 2,326. XRP's at $1.51. Solana's at $94. Dogecoin's at 10 cents. Tron's at 30 cents. Cardano's at 28 cents. Chainlink at $9.84. Monero's at $367.14. Stellar Lumen or XLM is 17 cents. And then World Liberty Financial is at 99 cents. Then you got Avalanche at $10. Litecoin at $58. Hedera Hashgraph, which is HBAR, you got that at 9 cents right now. So what are you guys thinking about crypto? The market's looking good. We got the Clarity at. Big things are happening. The Fear and Greed Index appears to be shaping right back up. We're up to 43 now. We're up to neutral. So now people, again, I said this yesterday in my live stream. I said people are taking their paychecks and they are buying crypto with it. And that's what this pretty much indicates right here. Neutral. So people are neutral on it. So there seems to be a pretty good proportion of people who are buying, people who are selling. So we're in a pretty good spot right now. I think we're going to be back in the greedy stage here relatively soon. Maybe even by tomorrow, we'll be back in the green. People will be greedy again. We'll be in the Fear and Greedy Index. Then I also want to check out gold before we wrap things up on this stream and do our little summary. Gold's at $5,014.80. Silver's at $79.80. $2,128 for platinum, and palladium's at $1,633. So that's kind of the market. That's what everything's looking like today. That's kind of where we're at. That's what the signs are showing too. We also have Glint, according to the maps here. Don't have any huge stories that broke out in the last couple hours. We do have some presidential flights, however. This looks like a presidential flight here. We had one over here. This also looks like a presidential flight. So yeah, we got a lot. We had one from Russia earlier. It showed one from Russia. Maybe it's here right now. I can't see it, but that's a Boeing 737 here in the sky, flying over France right now. Big news. What do you guys think is going to happen with the Iran war? What do you guys think about Netanyahu? Do you guys think he's alive? Do you guys think he's dead? What do you guys think? What do you guys think about the conspiracy, right? Do you guys think, do you think Netanyahu's alive or dead? Seriously. I think again, two outcomes. I think there's a good chance that Netanyahu is either dead or he's going to fake his death, and he's probably already fled. 4 weeks ago, we noticed on flight patterns that he had left for Berlin. So what happened there? Who knows? Maybe he's got a body double. You have to consider all of these things. The one thing you can't do is get wrapped up into the psyop. Don't believe one thing. You always question everything, especially with media today in 2026. During times of world war, you need to be able to analyze how things are moving, how information flows, how it all kind of connects together, how it all really ties. And it all does tie. Everything ties together. Whether it's business, whether it's marketing, whether it's real estate, everything comes together, especially politics, geopolitics. That's why I cover this show. It's because geopolitics allows me to cover the entire world, a little bit of the Middle East. I get to cover a little bit of what's happening on U.S. soil. I also get to cover a little bit of the markets, what's going on. And so we need to know what's going on, because if we don't pay attention to what's happening, obviously you'll have your eyes wide shut, and you don't want that. So we need to know the truth. As far as Trump goes, I really hope we get out of this war with Iran. It would be in Trump's best interest to get out of this war with Iran. It would be in the best interest of the United States to absolutely just be done. A strategic retreat, whatever you want to call it. But again, we have Venezuela. We have Cuba. We are also enriched in oil as the United States. We have no real reason to stay in this war fighting for Israel, so our U.S. soldiers can die for Israel. What is the sense in that? There's none, actually. This is an Iraq 2.0. That's how it should be approached. Not a single American should really be on board with this, because there's no benefit to it. Until they're coming over to our U.S. soil, which they have. There's already been some retaliatory strikes. We had Canton, Ohio. We had Austin, Texas. We have a lot of events happening around the country right now. Virginia. We also have attacks on Jews as well. So we have to address that. You got West Bloomfield, Michigan. You have all these other places. Again, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, which is where that ROTC instructor was killed. And so ultimately, we have to remember that all of these things happening, the PSYOP is designed to get you pretty much in a place of where they can control you. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get yourself thrown in jail. Don't get yourself thrown on a list, as they say. And ultimately, you need to be cunning. You need to be, as Christ said, you need to be as innocent as doves, but as sneaky and wise as serpents, or something like that. Said it wrong, but it's true. You need to be wise. You need to be as wise as a serpent, but as innocent as a dove. And I think that's how you should be. In this world war we're heading into, information is the real asset. Attention, of course, is the real asset. Understanding how to adapt and endure is going to be an asset of today's time, of technology as AI progresses, right? We have Maven's technology, the smart AI SaaS that Palantir just rolled out. Alex Karp's been excited about that. So how are you handling all of this? The evolution, baby, it's happening. So the question is, how are we all handling it? I'm handling it by staying ahead of the game. I'm handling it by staying focused, educated at all times. I'm focused on reading. I'm focused on, self-improvement always. Everybody should always be focused on those things. And you should also be focused on, really trying to be something contributory to your society, right? So I became a real estate agent so I can help people, find their first real estate deal, whatever it might be, which, again, if you need help getting real estate, let me know. I'll help you with real estate. I became a CEO of Gold Shark Media because we like to help business owners get more clients. I work with contractors typically. I was always kind of a nerd, so building websites and all that stuff was always what I was already good at. So it was kind of perfect. It only made sense for me to be one of these tech guys. I was always one of these guys, building AI, building code, kind of do that all the time. A lot of the viral stuff you've seen on X, I made those edits, right? So social media is something I've understood for a long time. Follow us on TikTok, @goldsharkmedia_. You can follow me at Brendan Ecker on Instagram or whatever. I'm not really active on Instagram just because it's kind of fake. Instagram to me is like fake. It's like you got Instagram, you got Facebook, but it's like, look at the audience. The audience is like the people you went to high school with. It's the people you worked with, and it's like, I want the people who are focused and dialed in. I want the people who listen to this show should be high IQ. The people who listen to this show should be intrinsically curious. The people on this show should be motivated for money, business, success. The people who watch this show should be interested in, of course, politics, geopolitics, geoeconomics, because that's what we're covering. We're trying to analyze the new world order and to study the future that we're heading into, the inevitable future that we're heading into, where man will merge with machine, where humanity today will be remembered as the last biologically sentient beings. You know, we're like the last biological human beings, really, before AI came along. That's how we're going to be remembered in 1,000 years. We will be the generation that basically created AI and created this amazing future with it, or destroyed humanity with it. So that's kind of what we're going to be known as in 1,000 years. So what are you going to do with this time, right? We're in a time where clearly it's the best of times, the worst of times. Interesting things are happening, though. You have a choice that you can innovate, you can be industrious, you can adapt and endure, you can build AI, learn how to build these systems, but learn how to build websites. I can help you do that as well. That's what we do at Cold Shark Media. We're a marketing agency, right? We help you out. We build you websites, do all that stuff. But those are the things I can assist you with. You know, you want to become a realtor? I sell my own real estate course. You know, you need to learn how to build courses, online courses. You know, you're on your phone right now or whatever you're watching this from. You have agency. You have a way that you can make money, but it has to be entrepreneurial. And this is really the message of what America First, in my opinion, should be. You know, we need to have a country where not only do we create businesses and we create all of these things for the future, we're thinking about the future, we're thinking about all of this, but we're also thinking about what is the impossible and how can the impossible be achieved? You know, who defines what is impossible and possible, right? I think, well, you do. You decide. So with that being said, that's kind of my analysis on everything. I think the Iran war needs to end. I think that Netanyahu is likely dead, or he is faking his death right now. I think there's very likely a strategic possibility that he could be doing that. It's not hard to put a body double out a couple days before you're bombed, and then to schedule the video out a couple days later, right? And then again, Palantir, I think they're rolling out with. I think a lot of this is all part of the plan. You know, it's all part of the psyop. The entire psyop is to confuse the masses, is to make you question everything. To question reality itself, and to keep you trapped in this matrix of not really knowing what comes next. So that's kind of why I do this show. I like to talk about what might happen next in the future. So if you support the show, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, leave a super chat or whatever YouTube calls it, a gift or whatever. Support the show, support the movement, support the information, because ultimately, like Alex Jones always said, right? It is an information war. Whether you like Alex Jones or hate Alex Jones, it's true. It's an info war. Everything is an information war. So support the show. Hopefully you are feeling the same as me. Hopefully I'm not the only one who doesn't want to be in this war with Iran, who wants to take America back, who wants to have my country back, all of these things. What do you think? Stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy. I'll see you tomorrow.